I forgot to tell you something. We're back here at our 1945 Model A John Deere. Sometimes these wheels will have a lot of rust on them, and it's kind of flaky and it won't come off with a wire wheel. But if you use an impact like a chisel, or they make a pointed one, and you put your air to it, you can knock all that flake off of there, and then use your wire wheel on it. That's what I did. I used that tool right there. It's a very handy tool to chip away stuff, or to push nuts in, or bolts and all kinds of stuff. Works really well. I have my cylinder on, and have a new gasket. I put some sealant underneath the gasket when I put it on. I laid it down here on with my cherry picker, my engine hoist, and it would not slide this way. So what I did is I put a jack up against this plate right here, and a piece of steel up against these studs, and I was able to push it. It wanted to come up, but when I tapped on the studs with a rubber mallet, it kind of shoved everything in place. One thing that happened to me is on the bottom side, when I took it apart, one of the studs came out of the cylinder, and then when I screwed it back in, the stud went into the block a little bit, and then the nut went way down on it, and when I tightened it up, I didn't see it, and it just pulled the stud out, so I didn't have enough threads into the block. Well, what I did is I took it all back apart, and I set this nut where it was supposed to be, and I set it in my vise, and I put a drop of weld on it. And that way, when I screwed it all in, the nut wouldn't screw down on the stud. It would actually screw the stud into the block, and it worked really well. So we have that done. And now I want to show you something with these here. You have your connecting rods and your pistons, and I want to show you how things go together here. So let me get in the picture there. First thing I want to talk to you about is directions and markings on the rods. This connecting rod here says 2, so we're going to start with this connecting rod because it's the farthest one away. It's the one on the clutch side. Number 2 is the one on the clutch side. If you notice, the rod and the cap have a 2 on them. If they don't, when you take it apart, I even marked it because mine was all goopy and rusty and stuff like that. And this one says 2 on here. I marked it with my little etching tool, and a 2 on here too. So I know that this is 2, and when I mark them 2, I know that this will be the top. And I also, after I cleaned it up, I put a little mark with a soapstone here, so when I'm assembling the rod on the piston, I get it the correct way. It's important you put it back on the crankshaft the right way, because it was running on that crankshaft for all that time, and it likes that position. So we're going to put this way. Now you understand that the engine's a horizontal engine, so the rods are going in and out. Pistons are going in and out, and the rod will go up like one of the beams, so you understand, up. Okay, I'm going to set that aside right now. With that in mind, look at the back of your piston, and on the back of the piston somewhere it's going to say top. This one also says 45, so it's a 45 over bore. Essentially. This says top. So this is going to be the top side of that. And I also put a little X here with a soapstone to show the top. So when I'm assembling this, I can have a quick glance and I'll be able to see. It has an arrow here that's pointing down. So these are probably aftermarket pistons. I don't see a JD stamp on them anywhere. There's a lot of clover leaves, but no JD stamps. So it's very possible. Oh yeah, they have JD stamps on the inside. They do. So these are genuine John Deere pistons. Okay, but they're 45 over, they say. Got a clover leaf on them. I took one of the retaining rings out of the pin, and I'm going to push that pin out if I can. It might not want to come out very well. I'm going to take a screwdriver and kind of tap like my hammer. Seems like to me I should have a hammer floating around here somewhere. Ha! We use this big one. Working with big parts, we use a big hammer. There she goes. Usually those just slide out real easy. And this one does, it just needed a little help. So we're going to take, where it says top, I've got a mark here, I'm going to mark here, and we're going to take top, yep, right there, and what we're going to do is we're going to put this together. Now, it's pretty important to get things as clean as you can. Working with this filthy tractor is difficult. Everything is just so cruddy and crusty, dirty, it's hard to work with. But whenever I put a joint together, a bearing surface together, I'm going to use some of the CRC engine assembly lube. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of this gack in there. Okay. Smear it around inside there. And that way you're not depending on the oil pressure of the engine. If there isn't any, which may be my case, lubricate your engine. And it'll give you time to look at the gauge and see that there isn't any oil pressure and to stop the tractor before there's any damage done. And it'll also give your tractor a chance to build oil pressure a few seconds before you push that in there. Everything gets up to snuff, the engine's running. You'll have something lubricating it before the oil gets through everything. And you just squeeze this. This goes right in here. It's pretty important to make sure these things are seated, because if they can't come out, you'll be sorry. Sorry for certain. There's no special way they need to go. There you go. Beautiful. A lot of people put them straight up and down. A lot of people put them sideways. I don't know. I've got the idea that the engine's going like this, so I'm putting them in there up and down, and there's no way that this can be compressed. If I put it this way, I would think that you could compress it, but it's not going to happen. Okay. Wives' tales. Deal with them every day. Okay. Let's talk about your rings. I'm going to use the original rings that were on this because the engine ran and it didn't smoke and it didn't use oil. So I'm going to use these rings. Also, they're $145 a set. Now, if you notice, there's 4 quarter-inch rings on the top and 1 on the bottom. What's the one on the bottom for? Well, I don't know. But I'm going to arrange these rings this way. I'm going to have this one, the top one, at about 4 o'clock. And then I'm going to have the second one at about 8 o'clock. The third one I'm going to have at about 2 o'clock, maybe 2:30. This one at about 10:30 or 11. And this one straight up or draped over the saddle, whichever's best. Straight up. You don't want any of the ring gaps on the bottom. Since this is a horizontal engine, you'll pump oil out the bottom. There's oil on the cylinder. You don't want that screw. You want a full set of rings scraping your oil. That's gravity down to your cylinder. You don't want any ring gaps lined up. So I tried to make them as mixed up as I can. To prevent any compression leak and to prevent any oil leak. Now oil that whole mess up, slide that into the, got to take the cap off of course, and grease your cap and grease your rod. Slide that whole mess into the cylinder, and then I'm going to put a ring compressor on that. I'm going to squeeze those piston rings with that compressor, and I'm going to take the back of this handle and I'm going to knock that in. Top, 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 until you get it all the way in. And then you got to make sure when you knock that in there that you don't knock off any of your shims, or you'll end up, when you put it back together, you'll be too tight. Your shims will be in the bottom of your oil pan. So let me get going on this here, and we should be fine. I talked to you the other day about this battery, and I tried charging it, and I think my battery charger just killed it. It has a dead cell in it now for some reason. So I'll have to go back to the widget company. I'll have to get another battery. It might not be a AAA, it might be a different battery, but hey, there's a whole stack of them and they're free. Alright, I'm going to put those pistons in that cylinder now.